As we are all still enjoying the Trump victory lap, let's take a pit stop and look at Ann Selzer, somebody who has built up her reputation for about 30 years about being one of the most damn near perfectly accurate pollsters in the so-called gold standard poll in all of history. Okay, she's had this big acumen. And what happens? Well, all the polls in Iowa had Trump winning it by 10 prior to November 5th. I had Trump winning it by double digits. Now, what happened? Ann Selzer does something that I call career you know what, where she just says, my credibility, there's a trash there, Kobe, and it goes in. And you know why? Because she wanted to put a Kamala +3 poll over Trump just so that it could buoy support in the media and then have people have this false sense of superiority and so that people thought that Kamala would win, therefore that Trump people would not turn out to vote. It's really a suppression poll is what Trump coined. That term is really prescient today. And to be honest, it's very, very delicious to see her suffer, as obviously she was off by 16%. So if you look here, Trump won Iowa by over 220,000 votes, but what's more is that he won it 56% to 42.7. That is going to be a victory margin of 13.3 at the end of the day. Now, also keep in mind that Trump won all but like 4 or 5 counties in the entire state, and there's a litany of these. It's very impressive. In fact, if you look historically as to Biden over here, Biden still did better than Kamala. Trump only won the state by 8.1. Okay, you go to 2016, Trump beat Hillary by about 10 points, 9.5. You go to 2012, Barack Obama beat Romney by only 5. You look at even McCain losing in a landslide to Obama in 2008, and look what happened. Barack Obama only beat McCain in Iowa in 2008 by like 9%. So for Trump to win Iowa by 13.3 shows not only that he won it by a lot, but he won it by more than anybody has in about 20 years. Well, what's also interesting about it is that he actually did better than Obama, which is supposed to be the benchmark for 21st century landslide politics. And yet still, Barack did not even get close to winning by as much as Donald did. And I think it's because Trump has a solidified change of the guard, a change in voter coalition, low propensity white people, and also the working class in droves going to the right, whereas you have labor unions on the left also disaffected as hell. Where even Joe Biden from Scranton had the facade of being for the working man, Kamala fell onto her knees and worked for somebody else's, you know what? And the working class did not buy her little shtick. That being said, Ann Selzer was so off that she predicted Kamala winning by 3 with Trump winning it actually by 13. So again, that's off by 16 points. Folks, getting it wrong by 16 would be akin to if I said, you know what, the Lalo decision desk has the state of Colorado going for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is winning New Mexico. Donald Trump is winning Virginia. Donald Trump is winning Minnesota. In fact, I'll give you one better. If I had predicted a red New Jersey, it would have been more accurate than Ann Selzer. Had I predicted a red Illinois, yes, with Chicago, that would have been more accurate. Do you understand how insane this is? And to be quite clear, just for a sense of scale, the last time Donald Trump's sort of performance in Iowa was replicated by a Republican or even a Democrat for that matter was Richard Nixon in 1972, where he won all but the state of Minnesota against McGovern. Okay, he won that state by 17. Now Trump only won it by 13 and a half. Okay, so pity Trump. But even if you look at 1984, that landslide with Reagan, Reagan actually only won Iowa by 8 points or less over Walter Mondale. And again, that's a 49 state sweep for Reagan. And still Trump did better in Iowa. So I only point this out to really make sure it gets very, very much into your psyche, folks, that Ann Selzer really just threw away her entire career, folks. And listen, the Des Moines Register by Ann Selzer is supposed to be something that people base the Rust Belt on. And what I mean is that in 2016, Ann Selzer had Trump doing pretty well in Iowa, and then that was extrapolated to mean that he'd be more competitive in Michigan, Ohio, etc. That made sense. They're sister states. Okay, fine. But when it comes to Iowa nowadays, it's not as correlative with the Rust Belt as it was in the prior several decades. But even beside that point, you know, she got bona fides because of 2016 being close in that poll where Trump was winning it by like upwards of 6 to 8%. And it turned out to be pretty accurate. 2020, more accurate than 2024. And then this year, she just throws it all away. And the reason is that I honestly do think that it was a Hail Mary attempt and that she's a partisan closeted Democrat her whole career, which is supposed to not be the case. If you're a pollster, you gotta at least be non-biased. And I know everybody has a bias to a point, right? If you're dead center in the middle, the fence you're riding on at that point is nothing but an impaling mechanism. And so it's an uncomfortable place to be. But if you're going to be biased, be honest about it. And then people can kind of adjust and, take in a grain of salt whenever they read something from Ann Selzer. But instead, she does something worse, something malicious. She pretends like she's unbiased her entire career, and then she does this little pooper to think and I guess she has delusions of grandeur where she thought that the Ann Selzer poll, the Des Moines Register, would have actually flipped the election results, that MAGA people would have said, yeah, I hate the economy, I hate Kamala, I hate the border, but guess what? I'm going to not turn out because Ann Selzer has a blue Iowa. But because of people like Ann Selzer that always underestimate Trump, even if Trump is losing in the polls, he's going to overperform, and people go to the polls and wait in line and stay in line for the president because they know that these mainstream media hacks are so common and so plentiful, and they're full of it. Now, she's not full of a career now that she's retiring, but anyway, that touches on to another point I was going to make with Ann Selzer. She's over here giving, again, Harris a slim lead. She thought this was very mindful, very demure, but it's not the case, okay? Also want to breeze over, and this might be its own separate video, so comment down below if you want to see this one. But I also want to take a second to poop on every prediction Alan Lichtman made and all the praise he's gotten over the years, okay? This guy has something called the 13 Keys. I've made videos in the past about it. And this guy's supposed to be the oracle, kind of like the Des Moines Register lady with Ann Selzer in Iowa. Alan is in particular the type that, tries to appeal to authority, saying, oh, I've been right in every election minus 2000 over a technicality. Actually, Al Gore won, and whatever cope you want to say. But anyhow, he's supposed to have these 13 objective criterion to where you can ascertain who's going to win the election on that basis, Democrat or Republican. And he says he's been right. And granted, most elections are pretty easy to predict. Like 2008, yeah, the Republicans losing, folks. But anyway, he obviously is another person who is older, 70-year-old, whatever, and has decades of experience of being pretty on the money, maybe, like Ann Selzer. But Alan Lichtman, these two peas in a pod, are really similar in the fact that they, more than likely, let their confirmation bias completely consume them, and as somewhat of a party favor for the Democrats, are juicing their coverage to be more acquiescent to the Kamala campaign, and they ruin their careers over it because now that Trump won, not only won, but won all the swing states like I predicted, not only won the popular vote like I predicted, has a mandate like I predicted, now all of a sudden, Alan Lichtman has no balls. He has no career. And would you color me shocked, but then look at this guy, okay? The bias right here. He's calling this the misinformation. Sorry. Wow. Am I autistic? Yes. The misinformation takeover. Okay. So he's talking about an Orwellian America because of Elon Musk and Trump. However that works. Or Alan Lichtman's other video more recently, 2 days ago. Gates and RFK? Seriously? Oh my God. So again, he's a neoliberal hack that hates Donald Trump. His confirmation bias consumed him, just like Ann Selzer. And just because Alan Lichtman got 2016 right, also, just because Ann Selzer also got 2016 right, does not mean that you need to listen to these people anytime going forward. I'm marking these two people as politically irrelevant going forward, and I think they're comfortable in the fact that they have millions of dollars from their mainstream media appearances or whatever else. And they thought, oh well, I cared water for Kamala. I'm a good patriot. And they're gonna mosey on to the retirement home, and the adult diaper will keep them warm at night. But for me, we're tuning those people out. And frankly, most pollsters are asinine. Most of them are disgraceful, frankly. And I might make even more videos as to who was the most accurate. Shout out to Atlas Intel Rasmussen. Okay, people like that. Right after the election, Alan Lichtman had to eat crow on CNN. Very embarrassing. Let's see how the humiliation ritual goes.
You talked many times. Were the keys wrong, or was your interpretation off this time?
I think the fundamental problem was the keys, not my interpretation. No one's convinced me that was wrong. There are unique features. I've always
Think about it. He's dissing something that he's had around for several decades. Because my logic cannot be wrong. Yes, me, the out-of-touch millionaire 70-year-old, I cannot be wrong. I cannot be wrong. It's the keys. Screw you. But again, these elitist white collar, stupid, and mind you, I want to be white collar, I want to be rich, but I'm also a genius. These guys are so out of touch, and it's palpably disgusting.
said some unique features could break the patterns of history. And I think that's happened here. First of all, a unique feature specific to this election. And you've heard me say this before. I was very critical of the Democrats for openly and viciously trashing their sitting president right out in public. I have never seen that before. And I've studied politics since the founding. And we saw Biden's approval rating plummet.
Wait, so wait, hold on. He's blaming Biden's approval rating plummeting because the Democrats were crapping on their president. Sorry, folks, but they were just being somewhat honest of like, hey, dude, he literally cannot hold a debate against Trump. Like, what the hell are we doing, folks? We're telling the American people that this guy's not only cognizant and physically in line and in shape enough to be president until November or January 2025, but we're also telling the American people that he's suitable to be president for another 4 years after that. People, even Democrats, knew like what the hell. And you have some exceptions, obviously. You have Gavin Newsom, who's one of the goated gaslighters and liars in media, where he's like, oh no, Joe did great. It's like, okay, well, it's funny to say out loud, but basically Alan Lichtman is now gaslighting mainstream Democrat politicians, throwing them under the bus for allegedly attacking Biden unduly, which is ridiculous. If Donald Trump, for example, couldn't even hold a debate, if he was so cognitively impaired that he was losing a debate to Joe Biden, I'd be like, okay, I love you, but come on, like step down. Like, we need some pressure here. Of course. Of course. Maybe Trump, let's say somehow he were running for president and he were 93 years old and he's like Biden at that point. Yeah, of course. Yeah, he shouldn't be the nominee. Oh, you're crapping on your president. Yes, of course.
As they were doing that. I think that extended beyond Biden to weaken any Democratic candidates since they're discrediting their own administration.
Buddy. Okay, you see the gap? Okay, sorry. I'm detouring way too much into the Alec Lichtman thing. Holy Jesus. Okay, I'm going to make it its own separate video, folks. Anyways, and Selzer, suffer, retire in pieces. And by that, I mean in pieces of shattered history because you got some elections right, but you got the most important election of our lifetimes completely wrong. And you're fired. See y'all in the next one. Adios.